Hello and welcome to our very first Tech Terrain show. I'm Tony Ndoro. Good to be with you. So in the next couple of weeks, we are going to be focusing on technology in the agri-space in Africa. But for our first episode, we're looking at brands, branding in the agricultural space throughout the continent. Why is it important? And we've got some fantastic guests lined up for you for today. You can look forward to insights into the inspirational John Deere story. And just to get you interested, the John Deere story started with a ship that foundered on South Africa's coast. The marketing guru, Dr. Ludi Kukumur, will come share his amazing insights on branding, complemented by Lindy Strubel, no stranger to the marketing of agriculture herself. We have a special visit by rugby star Arno Botha. He'll tell us about his experience with brands that he has represented. So that's our lineup for this week. And remember, please go on to our website for bonus material all about every single show that we're going to be bringing you here on Tech Terrain. With that, let's kick off this episode.
Believe in every farmer, big and small, those that are one with the soil, harvesting Africa's land, the land of our ancestors, to grow their business, communities, and feed our continent. Believe in the power of the collective, between farmers, communities, and government. Making smarter connections, sharing knowledge and expertise. The union of intelligence and innovation, integrity and commitment. Giving every farmer the confidence to get more out of the land. Believe in our potential. The possibilities of a green revolution. The chance to be greater than we are today. Believe that together we can go far. Believe in John Deere, a company that first believed in Africa, founded on integrity, quality, commitment, and innovation. A company that will always be linked to the land and all its farmers. Believe in greater.
Jacques Taylor is the MD of John Deere Sub-Saharan Africa. I want to chat to him now about the rich history the company has on the African continent. Jacques, welcome. Are you well?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the history of John Deere on the continent, and it dates all the way back to 1878, doesn't it?
It does. But Tony, I want to take you back a couple of years more. I want to take you back to 1837, when the founder of Deere & Company, Mr. John Deere, produced the first plow in the Midwest in the US. But interesting is also in 1878, it was actually two John Deere plows that washed out down at Victoria East in the south point of South Africa. Those were the first two John Deere products that landed or arrived on the African continent.
That's fantastic. And then from that point, the company then established itself and grew through the both World Wars as well. A bit of a boom after the Second World War, wasn't there?
Correct, correct. So as John Deere, we've established our offices here in the late 1960s, actually. So we've been around for a couple of years.
Okay, so we're going through a difficult period at the present moment because of the pandemic. What's the plan going forward for John Deere on the continent?
That's an interesting question, Tony. I think before we talk about the plan, I think we need to understand what does the market need and what is the problem that we try and solve as Deere. I think agriculture globally today is faced with the challenge of producing more food at an acceptable price without leaving a negative footprint on the environment. So that's front and foremost, I think, for agriculture globally. From an African continent point of view, firstly, we want to be an active player when it comes to the green revolution in Africa. And we want to be an active player in addressing these concerns or the challenges that the farmers have today in terms of producing more at an acceptable price and taking care of the environment. So technology is a key part for that.
When technology is a key part of that, what are you doing? Are you looking at the continent specifically and tailoring certain technology towards the continent?
For me, the brand stands for the quality of our products. It stands for the quality of our dealer network, and it also stands for the quality and the leadership that we have in agricultural technology. So that is the value proposition that we drive through the African continent.
And one thing that struck me, we're talking about COVID-19 and the pandemic and so forth, it almost highlights the importance of the sector that you're operating in at the moment, which is agriculture, doesn't it?
I think you're exactly right. I think in my mind, agriculture is seen in a very different light on this continent over the past, say, month or 2 months, where food security is top of mind. We see support from governments across the continent to position agriculture as an essential industry in each of these markets. I think we all appreciate and understand that we cannot fall short when it comes to food security in any of the markets.
100%. Jacques, thank you so much for chatting with us, giving us a bit of brief history as to where John Deere started from all the way back in the Midwest in the United States, and then landing here in Africa, albeit it wasn't the best landing, but that was in 1878. Fantastic stuff. Stay with us. We're going to be talking brand promise through COVID-19 in a short while. Okay, so we've spoken about the technology in agriculture at the present moment. Let's talk about the brand space, the brands within agriculture on the continent and in South Africa at the present moment, to be specific. With me, I've got two guests, Dr. Ludi Kukumor and also Lindy Struble. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Doc, can I start with you firstly? What is a brand?
You know, there are very complicated definitions of a brand, so I don't want to give you that. I want to give you a very simple explanation of what a brand is. A brand, per definition, is a product with a name and a mark and added value. It's as simple as that. So it's a product, it's got a name, it's got a mark, sometimes we call it a logo, could be a device, could be an icon, and it has added value. And that is a brand.
When does a small business grow to become a brand? When do I start establishing a brand as a small business or small farmer?
I think what is important is that farmers tend to rather work with products. They create what we call generic products or commodities, and they make it available for other people to do something with it. And the danger is that unless you establish a brand, you are providing products so that other people can make money. If you establish a brand, you can make money.
That's a good way to put it. Lindy, let's talk about fresh produce, something you are very au fait with. And you know, when you look at fresh produce, the promise is I'm going to buy and get something really fresh, and I want what I'm getting to be fresh. That's got something to do with trust, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's important to understand, like Ludi also said, there's a value that you add there. And part of that value that you offer and that you promise behind a brand is that trust. So if you offer a product, and the company that I work for, Mission Produce, is the world's biggest distributor of avos, and this is an interesting case study where you offer a value and trust on two angles. The one angle to your growers. So this is the first part where you get your produce, where you procure from, and the brand promise and the value there would speak to, in our case now, the world's most advanced avocado network. But that leads to that quality and that promise that you deliver. And then, of course, on the product side, and I think that's what you refer to, where the customers want to know what they're buying. And we're in the same Mission Produce brand, we've got the promise of the world's finest avocados, but that speaks to the consumer.
Yeah.
And we in the US, for instance, which is a very well-developed avocado consumer market, we've got 20% market share. And the reason is the consumer know what they get from that product. And that's the promise that they get from. Locally, some good examples of a differentiating factor which you can add to your brand. Let's take something like the Clement Gold, which is a Ndoro nachi, you know, it's a clementine, but it has a differentiating factor, and that's where you gain the trust of a specific quality, of a specific preference, and that you can consistently provide and gain that trust on.
So it's critical for whoever's on the front end to get the right suppliers initially, and make sure you also have your supply, you have some sort of hold on your supply chain, because you also want to check quality. How do you do that?
That is incredibly important. Like what we have in China, we don't sell it there as Mission Avocados, we sell it through Mr. Avocado. But they have the trust in the whole value chain because they work with a value chain that they trust and a brand that they trust. So that leads to that differentiating factor that you have there.
Okay, Ludi, let me come back to you. What makes a strong brand? If I want to create something, I'm a farmer, I reckon, you know what, I'm pushing a lot of the nachis that Lindy's talking about. What makes a strong brand? Where do I start, and what must be my end goal?
Can I start by saying that if we look at the top 20 brands in the world today, 5 of those brands are older than 100 years. And I always ask...
You're scaring me now, because what are you saying to me? I've got no room to start. Where do I start? That's intimidating.
Just quickly perhaps, you know, the first recognized brand that was registered was in 1705, and that's Twinings Tea. 1745, Drambuie. 1798, Schweppes. Now, fascinating that those brands have been around for like 300 years. And like I said, 5 of the top 20 brands in the world, including brands obviously like Coca-Cola and IBM and Toyota, and those are older than 100 years. Now, what made them strong? Let me answer your question. First of all, brand awareness. If you have high brand awareness, then secondly, brand trust. If you trust the brand, it will stay. Thirdly, brand support. You need to support your brand, the trade needs to support your brand, the consumers need to support your brand. Then, perceived quality. People love quality, and quality obviously can be defined in different ways. Now, in agricultural products, you have 2 things. The one is the physical side of it, the texture, the smell, the
taste, maybe?
Taste, the packaging, and then you've got the emotional side of it. Now, I'm not saying that one should have an emotional connection with a banana, but yes, you need to trust. So if you can build an emotional connection, then you trust the brand and you will support the brand and you will buy the brand.
Good advice. Lindy, last question to you. What's your advice to fresh produce farmers at the present moment, especially during this particular period we're going through? Because the pandemic will be with us for quite a while, the COVID-19 virus.
Absolutely, and I think there's opportunities for brands to embrace the post-pandemic trends that we're seeing. There's going to be a very big focus on nature. People don't want to, the earth got a moment to rest. People don't want to go back to the normal. Brands can embrace that promise of being nature friendly, for instance. We've got brands in South Africa. ZC2 goes by the Natuurboerdery brand. You know, that's a typical example. We're going to see more of that. And then, of course, food safety. The world has never been more obsessed with sanitation like now. So food safety, if you can add that trust within your brand of being delivering food safety and have a whole value chain that looks after the safety of your food, there's some opportunities. And then, of course, if you can look into the marketing opportunities, direct marketing, all of that, which brands can use this opportunity to better position themselves going forward post-pandemic.
Fantastic stuff. Very eye-opening stuff, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so there it is, a bit of advice coming from Ludi and Lindy. Stick to your guns, don't tamper with your brand. And also, because of the pandemic, we've got to make sure that whatever you're putting out there is safe. Right, you're still watching Tech Terrain. Good to have you with us. Now, earlier on, we heard about brands and branding and so forth when it comes to agriculture. I want to talk about brands, agriculture, and also in sport. This may seem a bit weird, but we've got a man here who has played for the Bulls, played for Munster as well. Has now come back to play for the Bulls in Pretoria. Arno Botha joins us now on Tech Terrain. Arno, good to have you back home. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
You grew up on a farm, so farming to you is not a big deal. It's something that you're very familiar with.
Yes, I did grow up on a farm. I won't say I know too much about the farming side of the work of it. I know it's very hard work. Been out of it since 2000. We sold our farm then, but I grew up in Elstrom. It's Morimole now, and still enjoy now going to the farm, going to Friends Place, more hunting farms. But it's a love that I developed again since, let's say, 2010, just to go back there and experience it. Being on the farm is just very easy for me.
Yep. Listen, let's talk about the Bulls as well. We were talking about branding earlier on with some experts, and the Bulls is a huge brand when it comes to rugby in South Africa, rugby worldwide. So many so many greats have come out of the Bulls. You joined the Bulls, played your first Super Rugby game for them in 2012. At that point, the brand was not at its peak. Talk to us about your experience.
Yeah, I was at the Bulls 2010. I started there, then I was still 19. Only played my first game in 2012, like you mentioned. So obviously I experienced some of the most highs of the Bulls and some of the lows because I was there since 2017. Also, that's why it made the decision for me to come back very easy because it's such a big brand, like you said. And then just going through those periods, they call it the dry years and so on. If you look at the history of the Bulls, that was there in the year 2000 also of Heineke Meyer. And he built a team that won 3 Super Rugby's in 2010. So the Bulls, why for me it's still a big brand and close to my heart, obviously, that not only because I grew up in Limpopo and was always a Bulls fan and go and support them, paint myself blue and enjoy that about it, but just the history that they had. I only started following them massively in 2000, since 2000. Yeah. But yeah, just the brand will still be big because of the history, because what they did. The only South African team won a Super Rugby. I mean, that's already massive. So you can never take that away from them. And you can only building on that. So that's why it's easy for me to come back and be back home now.
I just want to warn you, I'm a Lions fan, by the way.
That's okay. You guys did make 3 finals, so that's okay.
That's all right. We lost 3 finals. That is so true. Listen, Arno, let's talk about Munster as well. I mean, it's an Irish club, but also another huge brand, and you were lucky enough to play for them. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that was an interesting 2 years of my life now, the last 2 years, most enjoyable 2 years that I can say. Being there in Ireland, being in Europe, like I said, I like the farm, coming from a farm, going to Europe. It's not so much farming there, but still Munster brand also massive because of the history. If you look at it, 2000, I think it's 2007-8, they won a European Cup, and in 2011 they won their last trophy. That's a Pro 14. Still hasn't won anything since then, but a big brand because of the history. Just the people inside the Munster, the Munster brand. It's really like a family, and they look after each other. And that's what makes it for me very special to be part of that. And now being part of the Bulls also is we look after each other in our brands, at the Bulls and Munster, and that's what's special about rugby. And you can really just link it to anything, to say that.
So Arno, we've talked about the 2 brands, the 2 teams you played for, Munster, and now you're back at the Bulls, huge brands. Is there some sort of responsibility you feel when you're playing for such big name brands?
Yeah, definitely there's a responsibility on a person, but it also each individual has his own his own responsibility, what he wants to do and think he can do. But you do have something bigger that you live for once you play for a brand like that and you work for a brand like that. You do have some expectations that has to be met. Certain things you cannot do. At the end of the day, it comes back to your personal point of view, how you see it. There's a lot of interesting characters out there that, but they still the nicest thing about it is they look after the brand the best they can. And that's how the brand will then look after you also, and that's what makes it special for me being part of that.
Very true. Now, so going forward, Jake White, another big brand. He's won the World Cup as coach. He's going to be your coach now. Looking forward to playing with him. You've had also been coached by some really big name coaches in the past.
Yes, of course. Like obviously like Heineke and Coach Frans. You know, that's only 2 names. And now Johan van Graan, that's also the forward coach for South Africa 6 years. I was under him now, and working under Jake's going to be very interesting for me, you know, because I do follow him, and I see his history speaks for itself. You know, he won the World Cup, he won a Super Rugby, Sharks Super Rugby semi-final, he just won a top league in Japan. So that's things that obviously builds your brand and him as a person. You know, it just shows his caliber of a person, and looking forward to work with him at the Bulls, and the things that he's going to do at the Bulls is going to be good.
I have to ask you this. I can't let you go without asking this. Super Rugby. The New Zealanders and the Australians want to kick us out. What are your thoughts on that? Should we rather go play against where you're coming from, the monsters of the world? I've had this question this all week. You know, it's not going to be bad. I don't think it's going to be bad for rugby, but yeah, it's going to definitely be interesting. I think the travel is going to Europe and coming back here. Like when we played the Kings and the Cheetahs, you know, coming back from there, it's not an easy thing to do, to come back from there and play them, because you do get used to the altitude. So I'm sure somewhere they'll say someone's going to have an advantage. Yeah. It's a lot of travel. You're going to have, let's say, 2-3 week tours. That's only them coming back here if you play every team twice. So it's going to be a challenge if they do it. It's going to be interesting if they do it. It's going to be good for rugby if they do it or not. So it's going to be interesting. All right, we're going to see what happens. Is this the end of Super Rugby? But Arno Botha, thank you so much. Lovely chatting with you. Good luck with your the next move in your life with under Jake White at the Bulls. Good luck with that.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So there you have it. Arno Botha is a loose forward. Fantastic. He's come back home from Munster. He's going to be back in Pretoria plying his trade there. Well, now that we know the history of the company on African soil, it's an amazing history, by the way, let's move on now to the fact that this company, John Deere, has to be managed well. And I've got 2 gentlemen with me now who are part of that fantastic management. I've got Jaco Beers and also Stefan Nel with me. Gentlemen, are you well?
Well, yes, thank you, Tony.
Fantastic. Let me start with you, Jaco, and talk about John Deere on the African continent. Has the company always been green?
So since 1837, John Deere stood the test of time. Always been green, never merged. We're fortunate that we have some leaders. Actually, during the entire duration, John Deere has only been managed through 10 CEOs. That's truly remarkable. We also purchased a few companies, so we've never merged, but we did purchase some examples. We purchased Waterloo Boy out of the US. In 1918, and one of the most recent acquisitions is actually Blue River Technologies. Now they are specialized in artificial intelligence, but specifically focused in agriculture, and we're really looking forward to to how we can incorporate that into our John Deere products. I also want to just tie that into our dealer network. We've been doing business since 1837 through an independent channel throughout the world, and I'm really proud of our dealers on the African continent. They've invested millions in the right tools and systems in order to keep our products running. It's not just that first tractor that we sell, that we focus on, it's the entire life cycle. In other words, if it's a 1-year-old, a 5 or a 50-year-old tractor, that brand promise to keep you running, that's what we stand for.
100%. So a company moving into AI now, artificial intelligence. Stefan, one key thing has to be you have to keep up with standards. You have to protect the brand reputation of the company.
That's correct, Tony. So I think starting with a dealer network, so not any company can become a John Deere dealer. They have to invest severely, millions literally, into systems, processes, tools, and John Deere's got minimum standards to which any dealer needs to adhere to. And that obviously escalates as the journey progresses with the dealer. And if you can mention artificial intelligence, you can imagine to what extent the dealers need to invest to keep them abreast with what the latest technology is. And then one of those things to help us deliver on that brand promise there is the sophisticated systems that we have. So similar to our dealer network, John Deere ourselves, we also have to lift the brand every day. So we've got similar structures and processes in our branches, factories, and our parts warehouse to really live that John Deere brand every day.
Fantastic stuff. Now, obviously, we are in trying times at the present moment with the pandemic, worldwide pandemic. It's affecting Africa so much. What's the brand promise right now?
So we're proud to say that through the COVID-19 pandemic, every day we've been able to supply parts, and our dealer network's doors were open. We've got a parts distribution center here in Kempton Park, where we warehouse about a 1 billion rands worth of parts, but we need to fill it up. And we had some challenges with flights. Now, our brand promise is to keep our customers running, so we had to make different plans, sourced from Brazil or sourced from the US, where we tend to pay 3-4 times the cost that we charge the farmer. But that's our commitment to keep the customer running.
All right, fantastic stuff. Stefan, any last comments from you?
Yeah, sure, Tony. So Jaco discussed a little bit on parts, but a very important part of delivering on our brand promise is the service side. So what you do with that part after the service. And John Deere's got a distinctive customer experience is our whole aim in the service side that we want to give to our customers. And our dealers today has got a very sophisticated system. So technology in the tractors fully integrates into a dealer network. And that can help dealers to be proactive, do predictive failures or maintenance on machines. And one of the systems that we are very proud of is the Global Dealer Technical Assistance Center. So that is where a technician is on the farm today with any customer or in his workshop. He's got an issue that he can't resolve. He can literally go onto a system. If it's important enough, he will get a phone call within 20 minutes from anyone globally that specializes in that product, engineering, factory, technical people. So that's very important for us to make sure we give that constant delivery of service to our customers. And that is why John Deere is very protective of the trademark as well. So we are very protective in terms of who uses the trademark, how they use it, even ourselves. I mean, we're very critical, criticize ourselves a lot on how we apply our trademark and if it's in the right space. And that's all because we want that distinctive customer experience when people see the John Deere trademark.
All right, thank you, Stefan, and Jaco as well. A fantastic job you're doing at the present moment, and well done for keeping that brand promise up on the continent. Okay, thank you so much for joining us in our first episode of Tech Terrain. Be sure to go onto our website for loads of bonus material that we will upload for you on a weekly basis. Next week, we'll be looking at the African continent and mechanization, and also how can small-scale farmers upscale to the next level. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.